In the early 1800s, the United States was a young, developing nation with big dreams and limited land. The original 13 colonies had grown, but the country still hugged the Atlantic coast. Beyond the Mississippi River lay millions of acres of unexplored wilderness, stretching west to the Rocky Mountains. This massive area was called the Louisiana Territory, and it was about to change everything. At that time, the Louisiana Territory didn't belong to the United States. It belonged to France, under the control of Napoleon Bonaparte, one of the most ambitious military leaders in history. But the land hadn't always been French. In fact, it had changed hands multiple times. First claimed by France in the 17th century, the territory was later given to Spain after France lost the 7 Years' War in 1763. For decades, Spain controlled the land quietly, but in a secret deal in 1800, they handed it back to France under the Treaty of San Ildefonso. That secret transfer set off alarm bells in the United States. Why? Because the Mississippi River was critical to American trade, and at the mouth of that river was New Orleans, a vital port. Farmers, traders, and merchants in the growing western frontier depended on being able to send their goods down the Mississippi River to New Orleans and then out to international markets. If a foreign power like France could control New Orleans, it could choke off America's economic lifeline. President Thomas Jefferson understood this. Even though he was a man who believed in small government and a strict interpretation of the Constitution, he realized that the nation's security and prosperity were at risk. In 1802, Spain, still acting as the administrator of the territory for France, revoked the right of deposit in New Orleans, basically shutting off American access to the port. American citizens were outraged. Some called for war. But Jefferson chose negotiation. He sent 2 trusted diplomats to France, Robert Livingston, who was already in Paris, and James Monroe, who was sent specifically for this mission. Their job was simple: offer to buy New Orleans and, if possible, the surrounding areas. Jefferson authorized them to spend up to $10 million, a huge sum at the time, just for a small piece of land that would protect America's shipping interests. But what they didn't know was that France was facing major problems. Napoleon, once determined to build a French empire in North America, had hit a roadblock. His Caribbean colony of Saint-Domingue, modern-day Haiti, had erupted in a violent revolution. Enslaved Africans, led by Toussaint Louverture, had risen up and defeated the French forces sent to restore control. The campaign was a disaster. Thousands of French soldiers died from battle and disease. Without Haiti, Napoleon realized he couldn't maintain or supply Louisiana. His dreams of a North American empire were collapsing. At the same time, war in Europe was looming once again. Napoleon needed money fast to fund his military campaigns against Britain. So, in a bold and unexpected move, he decided to sell the entire Louisiana Territory, not just New Orleans, but all of it. When Livingston and Monroe heard the offer, they were stunned. Instead of buying just one city, they were being offered a landmass larger than the entire country of France for only $15 million. That's about 4 cents per acre. Today, that would be the equivalent of buying half the continental US for the price of a few tanks. They quickly agreed. There wasn't time to wait for Jefferson's permission. It was an opportunity too big to miss. On the 30th of April, 1803, the deal was signed. The Louisiana Purchase instantly doubled the size of the United States, adding 828,000 square miles of territory. But even after the deal, questions remained. Was it constitutional? Jefferson himself wrestled with the decision. He had always believed in a limited government and had argued that the federal government could only do what the Constitution specifically allowed. And nowhere did the Constitution say the U.S. president could buy foreign land. But Jefferson also saw the bigger picture this land would secure: the nation's future, provide space for expansion, and protect American independence. So, he put aside his strict beliefs and went ahead with the purchase, setting a powerful precedent for future presidential authority. The Louisiana Purchase wasn't just a land deal. It was a game changer. It gave the United States complete control of the Mississippi River and the port of New Orleans. It opened the door for westward expansion, which became the defining feature of 19th century America. Pioneers, settlers, and farmers began moving into the new territory, establishing farms, towns, and trade routes. Over time, this expansion fed into the American belief in manifest destiny, the idea that the U.S. was meant to expand across the continent, from the Atlantic to the Pacific. Of course, the land was not empty. It was home to dozens of Native American tribes who had lived there for centuries. The Louisiana Purchase eventually led to increased conflict, forced removals, and broken treaties, as settlers pushed west and claimed new lands. It also raised difficult questions about the expansion of slavery. Would slavery be allowed in these new territories? That debate would ultimately fuel tensions leading up to the Civil War. To better understand what had been acquired, Jefferson authorized a legendary expedition, Lewis and Clark's Corps of Discovery. Led by Meriwether Lewis and William Clark, the team set out in 1804 to explore the newly purchased land and find a route to the Pacific Ocean. With the help of Sacagawea, a Shoshone woman who served as their guide and interpreter, the expedition crossed mountains, rivers, and plains, mapping the region, collecting scientific data, and forging relationships with native tribes. Their journey expanded America's knowledge of the vast wilderness and proved just how valuable the Louisiana Territory truly was. In the end, the Louisiana Purchase wasn't just a bargain, it was a vision. It transformed the U.S. from a small eastern republic into a continental power. It set in motion the events that would shape America's destiny for centuries. And it all began with a surprising offer, a bold decision, and a willingness to take a chance on the future. That's how one deal in 1803 doubled the size of the United States, reshaped its borders, and forever changed its place in the world.